thoughts on falling to the second seed? I mean, the fans were all upset that you won two of your last three games. And what was your thought process during that? And are you going to actually sit on the dais, May 19th, or will someone else?
Haven't decided that part yet. You guys, I'm sure, have looked at the draft picks from the last 30 years and saying that I think the number one has only won 3 times. Is that right?
Last 20 years.
Last 30 years, the team with the first pick's only won 3 times. The fourth pick has never won. And, you know, there are all these numbers out there that are kind of unusual. So it's a real crapshoot. There's no doubt about it. We wanted our team to be competitive, and I always kept that foremost with Derek, that winning games is our goal. There was no tanking involved in any of our expressions to the basketball team or to our coaching staff, or the idea even wasn't proposed or talked about. The fact that we were in a position, you always want to help yourself the best you can to get an odds, but it's not that big a deal. We just feel like it's a lottery like anything else, and you just go in there with a positive attitude and take what comes out of that lottery.
Would it be a blow, though? You said it's not that big a deal. I think so many people focus on the odds of winning that top pick, but is it a bigger deal, the idea of falling from 4 to 5, when you're saying that there are a few guys in this draft? What do you consider?
Yeah, it is. There's a difference, I think, but it's all, I think even most people will say that the top 15 picks in this draft are very good chances. There's going to be a difference between 1 and 5. There always is, but it's going to be a positive thing.
No, when you, as you mentioned, you guys would have been clear in cap space this year, no matter if you didn't make a move.
Yep.
How do you measure that out, that you now have a lottery pick versus maybe establishing some kind of base for Derek and the team as a winning organization, if you would have stuck the way you
I have some really good help here in this organization. Mark Workentine, John Gabriel, to name just some of our people that are here. But they constantly do things that support our efforts in the direction we've gone. And Gabriel put on my desk a few years ago the extension of teams that are from the Spurs to the 76ers to a variety of teams that have changed their luck in a matter of 3 years, going from the bottom. Orlando, I don't think you can consider in that group because they drafted and they were an expansion team. But teams change rapidly in this in the NBA, depending upon the personnel and how things develop for them. Injuries, etc., play a big part of it. But we are a league that's dominated by personalities, by talent, and with 5 players, getting 2 or 3 players of talent changes your direction quickly. And we've all seen that. People that are pundits here have followed the game for a while.
But do you need more than that? In other words, you have a lot to fill on this roster. Is that a great challenge?
We really don't think so.
Okay.
When we look at the fact that we have 5 contracts and what's going to come through drafting and free agency, and then the possibility of players coming back, suddenly we're like maybe 3 players that we bring in from a different direction than just our normal pathway is going to fill a roster for us. So we're not we don't look like we have to fill 10 roster spots. It doesn't feel like that to us.
Do you see it as a 3-year process, though? You just spoke about 3 years, and also earlier about needing some time for a draft pick to come together. Is that the time horizon that's sort of in your mind when you think about it?
No, we're thinking about just putting one foot in front of the other right now. We don't expect to go to a championship next year. I mean, that would be like talking crazy. But we really do think that progressively we're going to get better. I don't think teams move as rapidly as that in this league. I think they have to take substantial steps, and that's what we want to do.
Bill, this was your first full season as a team president. What did you learn about the job? What were some of the biggest challenges, and how would you evaluate your first season?
Well, I was really surprised I didn't get the Executive of the Year award for the first one. It really bothered me, and I didn't sleep for a while. But yeah, there's a learning process. Hopefully, I learned some of the ways and the means. I had, Steve Mills has been a great help to me. He covers a lot of the things that I don't know about, and dots some I's, crosses some T's as we go along. But I think the real, issues coming up this summer and how we do from, the end of June until the end of July in moving this team forward in quick order. That's going to be our challenge.
Do you think that because of the money coming into the sport at the end of next season, that will lift the cap and probably lift the max deals as well, and the sort of paradigm set by LeBron of taking a shorter contract that will expire next year, that this batch of free agents might be inclined to look at shorter term deals, which would maybe encourage them to leave their existing teams?
I think we're moving into a new direction in free agency because of that, and I think that there may be shorter contracts that come out of this. Now, what happens is the bird rights don't follow in that regard, so it's going to be, you have to think twice about that. But I think you're going to see shorter contracts for some of these free agents this year as they look towards having something better or bigger in the future. And in that regard, I think it's a big asset for us. We're one of the few teams that has some money to use, and after this year, everybody's going to have money to spend. It's not going to be about money. It's going to be about where they want to go and who they want to play with.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
That's okay.
And just historically in your system, you haven't needed necessarily one of the NBA's best point guards to run everything. There expected to be a couple guys on the market. You guys struggled this year to kind of get into the paint to create fouls. Do you feel like that element of the system needs a tweak? Do you feel like you need someone who's kind of more known at that position, or do you feel like you just need a guard in general and it's still kind of a lead guard system as opposed to needing a point guard specifically?
Probably one of the bright spots about this season was the development of Langston Galloway, who's challenged the basket and learned a lot. In a season, showed his mettle many times in the course of end-game situations. Jose came in confident in his exit meetings about having a much better season next year. That he was bothered from day one with a Achilles situation that continued to bother him through the point to which he had to sit it out. So we have that situation, to deal with. We have Tim Hardaway, who we know has been both good and average at certain times during the year, and has a bright future that we think is a solidifying guard that can move either to small forward or guard role. So of our 5 players that we have that are under contract, 3 of them are guards. So we're pleased with what growth we had this year in that position. I think Jose showed a lot of development after the movement we made in early January towards running the team, feeling in control, knowing the direction we had to go. So I think that we moved a little bit, but we're still not where we want to be as far as a direction, the nuances that are presented to guards in the way we play basketball and the system that we have. But they have the idea, and next year they'll be able to obviously step in and create this. The aspect, I have a ways to go here. This could be a long discussion before we're done. The idea of penetration, which has become a rather laborious kind of screen roll method in the NBA right now, is something that I thought Derek incorporated in the process of developing the triangle and developing the system this year, and I think there's a lot to be learned from that. But we need a player that wants to go to the basket, can drive and can finish at the basket, and I don't particularly think that has to be a guard. But we are in that direction. We know that we're probably one of the bottom 3 or 4 in shooting free throws this year. But that has a lot to do with where you're at also as a basketball team. You're not going to get as many situations like that.